We're going to do one interview and then get going. Is that the camera? So if I'm looking at it, I'm good here? Great. All right.
You're live and they can hear you. We'll be getting started soon, everybody. Just give us a few minutes.
How many people do we have online?
We got about 5 people right.
Awesome. Hello, 5 people. Submit your questions to us, and we'll be sure to include them in the Q&A section. Yeah. I think we're just be in the house. Oh yeah, we are. Okay. We'll start off. Never know if it's going to work. This fell out. Is this our machine? This is the house machine. Excellent. There you go. Hey, this is that.
I'd like to welcome everybody. I'm Joseph McElroy to the New York Inbound Marketing Professionals Meetup. Our restart of our new series. Good turnout, a good event every time. I'm CEO of Galileo Tech Media. We spend in the technology content to help out inbound marketing efforts. I'm launching something called Optimize New York, to provide services to companies wanting to reach a New York audience. And we're going to be concentrating on the web part of that. We're looking for partners to do advertising and other marketing services. So, let me know if you'd like. Keith, you want to tell us about today's meetup?
Thank you very much. So about 5-6 months ago, Joseph and I met, and meetup was kind of lay fallow, and we decided to kick it off again. And this is our third, and it's been incredible. So now, a couple things. What we're looking to do is create a working group where people can learn and increase their knowledge about inbound marketing. This is a technology agnostic approach. It's really about the process and methodology of learning to attract customers to your business. And there's dozens, if not hundreds, even thousands of ways to do that. And there's combinations of ways, and it's not going to work for another company. So this is a laboratory for you to come and learn. And we're going to invite technology Uberflip and work with technology company customers to tell their stories of what's working. So you're learning real time from people who are practicing inbound marketing, and it'll be across a variety of platforms. And so far, the formula seems to be working, and I spent a lot of my time thinking about who's going to come 4 weeks from now, 8 weeks from now, 12 weeks from now. they can sustain on their own and work with us as an architect. We may operate sort of their check-in as a C. We work with mid-sized technology companies where we build inbound marketing programs and develop the content, whether it's written ebooks and white papers to video, and we manage the process on an ongoing, sustained basis, publish to the blog, do the social media, and we also do media development. So we've done video production, ebook production, and can come in on a project basis. And is when we're working on the content, get them on a platform that whether we're running it and it's HubSpot, or we're submitting the content to to an in-house team that's running a Marketo or other. For us, it's quality content, and we've really seen the difference it makes when you understand your audience and can program content to them. So that's enough of my commercial. What I want to do just briefly is thank Randy for coming down from Uberflip from Toronto. And welcome. You're going to learn a little bit about what they do through their customer, Jim D'Arcangelo. And without much further ado, I'll invite you up, Jim, to come and tell your story.
Great, thanks very much.
Content are us.
Content are us. Thanks for appreciate it. Sure. Well, you know what? I will roll along here. So, Keith, thank you very much. When you talk about spending a month or more, actually, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Spending a month or more getting everything lined up for the next one, the month out. I really appreciate all the work you've done because you started back about 6 weeks ago. So this was not something that was just thrown together with everything else. There's a lot of work and effort and thought and time. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you for the introduction. We're here to tell the story about what we've done at Booker over the course of the last year and a half, what we've done through our team, through our organization, certainly through a key partner like Uberflip, who made a lot of things possible for us. Just very quickly as to what Booker is. Booker is a platform that allows local services businesses to attract customers, set appointments, act as a point of sale, and then retain customers while we also actually manage all of their back. So I liken it to like an open table on steroids. So for services businesses, not retail restaurants. We've been primarily in the health and wellness area. We're expanding quickly to home services, and we're going horizontal very quickly with the $35 million of capital we just raised in the last couple of months, in large part due to what I'll be presenting tonight. So with that, go forward, next slide. Yeah, the clicker actually, Keith, great. Thank you very much. So just very quickly, just to set the table, make sure not to mark the wood. The mark the wood is probably overnight. But the old school marketing walked in January 14, and this was kind of a classic tale of old school. 50% of our inbound leads, 50% of our closed deals were driven by inbound lead. The rest were just plain bangless cold calling. Paid search drove inbound leads with a cost per lead of about $50, cost per acquisition of $350. Those are not bad metrics. They're really not bad metrics targeting the SMB market, especially. Paid search led organic leads by a 5-to-1 ratio, and organic was kind of by happenstance for every time it came through the transom on the website. There was no content team whatsoever. There was no strategy. There was no product marketing. There were no user insights. There was no market research. There wasn't a value proposition. I was embarrassed to have the head of sales ask me about 2 weeks into the job, so what's our value proposition? I said, honestly, I don't know. I had a board member ask me about a month in. I said, honestly, I don't know, but I'm going to address it. I'll get there. The marketing automation system, they've been a Marketo customer for about a year. And I would cringe because within the first 2 months in the job, it was common vernacular in the company to say, we'll just send a Marketo. In other words, it was like a dumb email system. We'll just send a Marketo. Like, oh, no. It's much more than that. But it was in a state of disarray, as you can imagine. We had, what content we had was in all sorts of different stages that it shouldn't have been. The content was actually so badly organized, I think it actually repelled closed deals in some cases, and I'm not saying that for a fact. We had 90,000 listings that were dead or dormant in sales flips. There was no marketing funnel, there was no analytics, there was no process for driving upsell to cross-sell, in the sense that not only was there not a marketing automation system to drive it, there was not a team to sell it. So it was, but yet the company is growing 100% a year. Wow. And yeah, and actually all their sales was through direct sales. All the products were built internal. There was no team driving armor whatsoever. So that's one of the reasons I went to Booker, was I saw this, and the CEO had actually shared all the metrics and everything with me. I said, wow, this is great, because they're growing 100% a year, and they haven't even begun to kind of scratch the surface capability. So I took a look at people, processes, and partners that were going to actually drive where we needed to go. And content marketing automation, SEO optimization would be critical drivers. Next one. So I started with structure and people. So first off, I started with a team. I didn't fire anybody, but I sat down with everybody for quite a while and asked, where are you? What are you doing? What's your passion? What do you like to do? What could you do better? What would you rather do? And then I actually built into a structure, because the team was all individuals in silos. They didn't talk to each other. They didn't talk to sales. They didn't talk to anybody. So I realized I actually needed to create a matrix organization that would actually be built for sales. So we basically had to I had to determine the norms that I wanted to establish in terms of internally, externally, just critical things that had to be norms. So the horizontals were the content execution. So our branding, our reputation, and communications had to be normed. Our go-to-market and creative operations, our look, our design, our feel, our tone, our personality had to be normed across everything. Demand gen and client comms management, we had to have a norm for who was going out to what, with what message, to whom, in what order, and what frequency. And then our competitive intelligent market research as an underpinning had to be normed. But that tied into what was a driver and vertically. So we had the voice of new customers, we had the voice of existing customers, we had the voice of our channels, and then we had the voice of those who were considering us. So those became drivers into the norms, and everybody had to work together. And the people that were driving things were the customers, the prospects, and the channels, into the executors, who were the gatekeepers. As to our voice out, to whom, in what manner, in what frequency, so that in each way they were interlocked. Next slide. And then I just basically, except for marketing automation, I just hired really smart people who were very high achievers, who were very aggressive. I didn't really care what else they did. Because I knew if I had those kinds of people, I could move mountains. Because they would find a way. And I would say, hey guys, we got a problem. We're going to go over, around, or under, or through it. We're going to solve for X. So let's all get together and figure out how we're going to do it. And that was the profile of people that did it. I am not going to read through all this by any means, but in terms of critical baselines, we launched our own blog just as a baseline, because we had to kind of get that moment. And then you'll see, it took a little while, but we figured out we needed to. Because what we did in Drupal and all was fine, and it got us rolling. And actually, that ratio, I said about paid search leads to organic leads, actually leveled out in May and turned the other way. But we knew we could not scale without the right content platform. But we went across, again, I'm not going to read all of this, but in terms of actually taking a Salesforce mess and taking a Marketo mess as a massively critical foundation before we started piling content and the content platform and everything else on top of it, we had to completely dig back and roll through and clean everything up. So I can't emphasize that enough. Next slide, please. Another slide I will not read through, but just if you just buzz the issues on the left, this is classic stuff. I mean, we had scoring systems that were out of date. We had admin, everyone was an admin. We had no standardized naming conventions. Old campaigns were running. We had promotions for free iPad minis. never. I kid you not. It was crazy. At one point, we had over 700 campaigns that were floating out, and every once in a while we get a response to it. Yeah, they all had to be reined in before we could do anything. It was crazy. Next slide. And I'm sure I think everybody's going to get a copy of this, so don't worry about reading or taking notes. There's another process initiatives, basic lead stages, lead scoring model, lead source consolidation, campaign request processes. There was no marketing funnel. I had said to the head of sales on my second day there, I said, we don't have a marketing funnel. He said, no worries, it's quick close. Oh no, this is not good. So we finally got a marketing funnel. Next slide, please. Thank you, Kate. Here you go. Now we turn then on content initiatives. You see Uberflip down there, right? This was a critical turning point for us because it was not only a case of actually managing personas, managing our campaigns, but actually doing it in a way that was very, very user friendly, but also extremely lead gen friendly. Next slide, please. This is not anything earth shattering. The next couple of slides. None of this is really earth shattering. We start very early. One of the things I've learned over the years is that the area of least competition and content is actually when people are completely unaware that they even have an issue. And they're completely unaware of you. They're completely unaware of the space. A lot of companies start when they're aware they have a problem. Well, when they're aware of their problem, they're probably looking at you and other players. So if you actually get 2 steps ahead, it's very easy in social media to just tease people up with very simple things. I mean, the simplest, craziest things will get people aware of your brand. And then you actually ease them into the very early unaware stage. They're still unaware of the problem. They're still unaware you're even speaking about the problem. But you start to lead them into a funnel way ahead of your competition, and just like an RFP, you are then framing the lens through which they look at what kind of solution you need. And remember, this target audience is SMBs, landscapers, house cleaners, salon owners. These are not Fortune 500 enterprise people. But yet, while they love to do what they do and they don't love to run their business, they do love to learn about how to better run their business. And then these are just examples of how we populated those. But we already consciously kind of mapped it out. Next slide, please. This is just another kind of very simple map, and it's actually taken 3 or 4 levels up from what I do with my team. And it's actually, I spent 3 team meetings the first month I was on the job explaining the buyer consideration cycle and the stages of what we're doing, how we're positioning, what the buyer's mindset is, and what sales mindset is. So again, this is like a 1,000-foot level from what I can represent to my own internal teams. But with each of those, and actually you can take this down and then into the medium and the content and the application for each stage, so it becomes literally a checklist. And everybody's able to jump in at a certain point. So you actually can take this down several levels in terms of mapping content to personas and psychological mindset. Understanding that when a buyer is first considering a purchase, they're very concerned about the solution. But then as they go through the buy cycle, at the very end they're very concerned about risk and price. Mostly risk, personal risk and company risk. So if you're actually mapping the persona to where they are in their engagement to their psychological state, you actually can get very tight in terms of how you map the content. Next slide, please. These are just a couple of sample personas. Again, this was actually done about a year ago. We're strictly in the health and wellness space. And they're 1,000-foot level, but you kind of get the idea that there are many, many below this. But you get a little bit of a sense of how we map the buyer consideration stage to the personas. The psychological state is something that's a little bit more art than science, but again, you get a little bit of a sense of it. Marketing tools. So I mentioned people, processes, technology. We found in several states you need different levels of vendors. We were a big marketer, and when I'm going back to when I was the first head of marketing RA Systems back in 2008. I was one of the early clients of Marketo. I've been using Marketo ever since. So big fan. Unbounce, big fan of Unbounce. Moz and Conductor, SpyFu help us optimize. Moz does most of the work. Conductor is much more high-end, sophisticated. We're kind of growing into Conductor. Uberflip is the only content platform out there. You can see, you know, otherwise we have multiple vendors across the way. So our social media is there with Sprout Social. It kind of works for us. It works for our level. But yeah, you can see actually the data intelligence. There's no accident that there were 4 vendors there. Because actually that is where the space is moving extremely quickly, and we're in the process of kind of reshaping our entire lead managing content approach based on a lot of what's being done on the data intelligence side to actually short circuit and be able to get specifically to buyer state by profile very, very quickly. So you don't actually take them through a continuum, you actually get right to where they are immediately. On to the next slide, please. So the critical enabling milestones, we talked about all that kind of work that laid through. We kind of rebuilt our systems in about 9 weeks. We almost immediately had 14,000 nurture leads in the pipeline, dead or dormant in Salesforce. We had 90,000 I mentioned earlier. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars wasted that were just sitting dead, that were engaged for basic content nurture stream. Daily forecasts, pacing reports, predictive forecasts by sales rep, by close, by channel. All these things we're able to do now. And more than 50% of our upsell and cross-sell ARPU opportunities driven by content marketing automation team. So we kind of built the case. As I've seen in the past, the content and marketing automation actually is much more geared for upsell and cross-sell than it is even initial lead gen demand around prospects. Uberflip enabled us to launch completely overhaul optimized blog in 3 exclamation weeks. We were doing very well with our own blog. It's all very good. We're about to relaunch our website based as kind of the exclamation mark, the catch point for all the other work. And we realized it was just, that was not going to be as optimized as the rest of our site. So we went to Uberflip on pretty short notice. And they were extremely helpful in gearing around what we needed to do and what our vision was to get us to where we need to be literally 3 weeks. So it's unbelievable for us. Our website launched in mid-September. We blew out all of our content, Marketo, Salesforce linkages, and just in a very positive way. And that website launch with Uberflip actually ignited our demand gen. Next slide, please. So this is very simple. One of the things that I've been doing this for a long time, even before 2008 with Marketo. I just kind of crudely hatcheted together demand gen systems. So we actually created a funnel-shaped blog. And what you see up here is serving the SMB space. We actually start at the top of the funnel, common business insights, addressing common business problems across the SMB space. They start at very high level. We lead to vertical market specific contextual solutions. This is just one of our markets, which then drives into our product, where people are self-selecting in their stage of readiness, their stage of engagement, right into our product, and then we drive right into our resource center. If people so choose, they may not choose. They may stay at the top of the funnel forever, and that's, God bless them. But then we actually have all sorts of different ways. These are just videos. We have white papers. We have all sorts of case studies, everything else on the side. But I just picked this because actually we have done very well across the board with different media. But probably the key takeaway is actually by having everything geared with all of your content with a funnel in mind. And as I tell my marketing team, if you're not driving anything that's going to drive leads or contracts, you better think twice before you do. And when you're writing a blog, you should be doing it. Remember what I said earlier about the vertical markets and the product marketing people driving them to the content scene? One of the biggest mistakes I always see is content people that just go off and write. They do a little research and they write. It's good, it's fun, it's interesting, and it's all that stuff. Except they don't take advantage of all the insight, and all the research, and all the knowledge, and all the customer base grittiness that the product marketing team and the vertical markets expert. So I use those teams as the rails to drive the content funnel into the content team who then executes. And then we go from there. And they drive the content into a funnel that actually follows the buyer consideration cycle. Next. So just a few stats. I'm not going to dwell much, but you can see some of the magnitude of what happened over the course of less than 15 months. See our video stats. Again, this is considering we're just serving the health and wellness space, the SMB space, these are not Oracle-like numbers, but they're very, very big relative to the dimensions of space that we're in. Next slide. Gated guide stats. It's amazing. Actually, one of the things I'll even say on the flip side of serving the SMB space, people say, well, it's relatively sophisticated, content. I've actually found that the flip side is that's a tremendous opportunity. Every market we go into, and there are extremely few sophisticated competitors who have any sort of engine like this. And the beauty of building an engine like this, a partner like Uberflip, is that once you've built it, you just build and build and tune and tune, and you saw the numbers of Optimizely that we use to completely test and optimize every single thing we do. We bring that to every market we come into, and we have no competitors that are that sophisticated. And it took a lot of time, it took a lot of effort to build that. But once it's built, you just get it tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter. You add technologies to make it even better. Next slide, please. Our email stats 45% open rate. It was just, again, these are, again, within the health and wellness space, and we're blowing out our verticals, and we're blowing out a lot more. But yeah, these are pretty strong. So we'll get to, here we go. Here are some real stats. Our inbound lead volume is up 3x versus 7 months ago. Our inbound, our lead spend at the same time is down 60%. 3x, down 60%. We now drive 100% of closed leads when it started, 50% of closed leads. And we had multiple people pounding the phones. Our cost per lead is $20, it had been $50. Cost per acquisition had been $350, it's now $190. These are blended rates. We actually use about 12 different channels, we're going to use more. But we lean most heavily on organic, affiliates, and so on. Our churn is cut in half because what happens is instead of us blasting out to people, we let people self-select in wherever they want, whenever they want, whatever stage they're at. It's all about tightening, like I said, the content, personas, the buyer consideration cycle, the stages, and then actually tying that into their psychological state. Our website traffic is up 150% over the course of last year. These guys are rock stars. A lot of teams, the content people and the Marketo people are buried. When our company took the top performers of the company to Cancun for 4 days, 2 of the 3 people in the marketing team were my market automation person, content person, and then the third person was actually a lead gen person. We closed Series C with about $35 million, and this was a cornerstone. And then, as I said, actually, as technology starts to evolve quickly, not only did we lay the foundation for where we are, we're laying the foundation for where we're going. Because where we're looking at is basically as you get to predictive lead scoring and advanced list personalized profiling, and the companies are dialing tighter and tighter every day. What you're able to do is rather than lay out a net to catch fish at whatever stage they're at, you actually flip it. You can actually tell where they're at, and then actually hit them with a content blast relative to where they are as a profile versus your existing customers, and then actually have sales going very quickly. So if you can do that, when we talk about the unaware stage, it increases velocity, and it goes from a passive content-driven approach, it goes to a very aggressive content-driven approach. Next slide. This is the last slide. So critical enablers. And I don't think anybody's here or watching, but I consider myself very blessed because I had a board who not only never asked a question, but was fully supportive. The CFO and CEO gave the team a lot of autonomy, and has never once to this day said, "Why are you doing that? Why are you buying unbots? Why are you buying Conductor when you already get lost? It's what you need is what you do." I said about the rock stars, culture. It allows very different approaches, different processes to replace all that was before. And then finally, a key partner like Uberflip to give us the technical input and capabilities to basically execute on our vision. So yeah, it is literally, it's people, it's processes, it's technology, and yeah, I'm very happy to share. So thank you. I wanted to kind of move through that because there's a lot of stuff that I'm sure people would want to wade through. But as I always do when I speak, please reach out to me. I'm jim@booker.com. That's who I remember. Please, as I was saying to a couple people earlier, I'll speak often. I'll have the full marketing teams and call me up later. So you can kind of walk through what you did and how you did it. So I'm very happy to do it. I think it's part of the advocacy of inbound marketing and where inbound marketing is going. I'm very happy to share it. So, so turn it over to partner in crime.
Cool. So first, let me just thank both of you, for organizing this. Keith, to Jim's point, he's been working a lot on this, promoting this. I know that it's not just him; there's a whole team behind you who's doing that as well. So a lot of credit goes out to that. And I to all the nice things that Jim just said. Really, proud to be part of the success that they're executing, but by no means are we the silver bullet. You need a lot of this, and you need people who are going to, really drive and step up and set the course of what you want to do. And to be honest, that's why I love coming to these types of opportunities and speaking to this type of groups is you guys are those early adopters. Right? And we talked, we heard a lot about, kind of early adopters, and it was interesting the slide that you had where you talked about getting to people and engaging with them before they're even aware of the problem. There's only certain people who are often going to listen, and I think when it comes to inbound, it's groups like this that are obviously those people who are early adopters and will really drive success stories like what we're seeing here at Booker. So it's exciting for me to do this type of stuff. Similarly, I've just fortunately have been asked recently to start co-hosting a podcast called Content Bros. If anyone's tuned into it before, it's great. It's Jay Baer, if you know Jay Baer. He's a great author, Convincing and Convert. It's his agency play as well. And Jay's actually an investor in Uberflip. So I've been recently brought on to co-host it with a guy from Oracle named Chris Moody. And we're just talking to people who are executing well. I mean, that's the idea of the show is really to have an opportunity to bring someone on to this podcast and just hear how they went to market, what they executed well on, what they learned through the process worked or didn't work, and sharing that. And it's great to have people who, as I said, are interested in those best practices. So, Keith, did you have a format or agenda for?
No, I really interested in hearing a little bit about Uberflip and what was the impetus behind coming up with the product?
Yeah,
and
sure.
How did you give birth to it?
Sure. I'm going to keep going back to the water because I'm losing my voice this week. But, I love, so when I say it's always my team. I've got a great co-founder. The two of us have built an amazing team back in our office. We're actually in Toronto. And one of the things we always like doing, at least the two of us when we talk, Yoav and I, is we talk a lot about trying to find broken processes that we all do every day, right? And it's the obvious stuff that we just continue to do over and over and over without even realizing that we're doing something that is so broken. And you look at some of the biggest successes that are out there today. Even look at a company, no relation, but Uber. The car company to get you from point A to B. I mean, I can't believe that 5 years ago I used to pick up the phone, call a taxi, half naked, run to my window 5 times to make sure the taxi wasn't there. Call them 10 minutes in. Is it still another 10 minutes? These are things that we all just did. We didn't really question them. We were frustrated in some cases with them, but we went ahead and we kept doing that time and time again. And to me, those are the things that are hard to identify sometimes, but often they're staring you right in the face. So to your question, earlier on, the original tech that that became Uberflip was actually a very small feature that we have today. It was our ability to take a PDF and convert it into a page flipping experience. And a lot of you have probably seen technology like that, like a flip book type of technology. And that's what we were selling early on. And the story that we would tell in the same way of something that was broken before is we would describe to someone and we would ask them, a scenario that they could relate to. We would say, okay, would you ever send an email file, an FLV format email file, and attach that 50 megabyte video to an email and send that out to your audience, right? Knowing that to engage in that video, they probably have to open up QuickTime, your Windows Media Player. You're gonna have no version control once you send it out. You're not gonna know if someone actually watched it or not because it's all offline. And people would giggle and they'd be like, no, I'm not an idiot, I'm gonna use YouTube, right? So we said, okay, great, that makes good sense. So why are you sending a PDF? And they said, well, what do you mean? Well, we said, well, to download that PDF, first of all, they're going to need Adobe Reader to open that up. It's going to completely break that flow from engaging in the email or engaging in your website. You're going to have no version control if you sent the wrong version out. You're going to have no insight into what pages people read. And they're like, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense. So why are you doing it? Well, we've always done it that way, right? And as we evolved as a company and became much more than just a PDF solution, even though that tool lands us a lot of deals today, believe it or not, we looked at the same problem for content as a whole. And one of the things that we looked at on people's sites was how they organized content. This one was, I think, a little bit more complex. It wasn't that they were just doing it because they didn't know better. They were often doing it because it was a lot harder to do it in a different way. But what they were organizing content by format, right? So go to any company's resource page or library, and what you'll usually find is a very logical order of content, which is all of our videos are often together under what we call webinars or videos. Then we've got another tab called infographics. Then we have another one called ebooks. And then we've got another one called blog. I mean, the blog shouldn't sit with any of that other stuff. It's articles, right? We looked at that and we were saying to ourselves, when's the last time we went to a site and said, I want to watch videos to learn what this company does, or I want to read a bunch of documents right now, and that's how I'm going to determine if I believe in their philosophy or their product or their opinion, at a higher level of thought leadership. So we said, okay, that's pretty broken too. And really what we wanted to be able to do is allow a marketer to better organize content around a topic or an idea. So if you go to Booker's, blog, as they refer to it still, I think partly because that's the terminology people know, you look up along their top menu to organize. They break it up by industry, by buyer, by some of those complex but very straightforward different buyers that they talked about having to appease to at different stages of their funnel. And that's what makes a lot more sense, that when I land at Booker, if I'm a spa and I want to understand information about spas or information about budgeting or something very specific, I'm given context. So one of the things that, I always am curious how people engage in their content when they're not going to a company, right? And a lot of people will tell me they go to Twitter, or they go to LinkedIn, and I do the same, right? Let's say I jump to LinkedIn, and I often say, I'm going to catch up at the end of the day, spend 5 minutes, find out what my other people who I respect are talking about, what are they posting, and somehow that 5 minutes turns into 25 minutes. My wife hates that, but they've sucked me in. The way they've done that is that they've created this infinite scroll of relevant content. The next piece is interesting to me. I went for one or two, I can't leave because it continues, to hit a nerve with me. It's the headlines really strike me as provocative. And 25 minutes later, I'm still there. I don't even remember what I came in for. I just know I'm hooked. And that's what we try and help help marketers do is really emulate the experiences that we're seeing on a lot of social platforms. I mean, these social platforms, they're doing it right. They've got a lot of people making sure they're doing it right. That's why they're killing it out there. And that's what we need to do is B2B marketers, B2C marketers, doesn't matter. We need to find ways to better create a journey, right? So that someone lands on your site and they don't want to leave. One of the things that I've often said, and I was guilty of this when I was not running Uberflip, but running marketing campaigns, is I would like high five either myself with a fist bump or someone beside me when there was high engagement in a campaign that we did, a post, right? To me, that was success, right? It was like, we got 1 million people to read this post, or 1,000, doesn't matter what your goal is, but that's what celebrated success, versus really trying to think about what is success. Well, success is maybe that they engaged in that post, and they went on to another post, and they went on to another, and eventually they converted to, from there they converted to a customer. And when you start to measure your content based on, that more, business impacting level of success, you challenge your entire team. So, our team does not get excited about, 20,000 shares, the same way they get excited about 200 new leads, right? And that, not to say shares aren't important, not to say that engagement's not important. You need that. You need that from a good experience. But ultimately, the reason we have these great experiences is for that, that outcome. That's a little bit of a long-winded story as to why, or why this has become our baby. Anyone else have any questions or Keith?
What's your title, Randy?
My title? I don't get to be the marketing guy anymore because I always believe you got to hire people better than you, and we have a much better VP of marketing now. My title is COO, Chief Operating Officer. We're a lean team. We're approaching 45 people on our team. So my role is still a little bit of everything. I definitely put my nose into too much marketing, but I think it's embraced still. At least that's what I'm told. But I get to deal with the customers all the time. I mean, that's a big part of my role is how we go to market. So that is everything from marketing to our sales team to our success team. Success for us is similar to not getting excited that someone read a post. We don't get excited that someone signed up as a customer. We get excited when they get up here and talk about us, right? So we put a lot of emphasis on all aspects of that, and really try and get that team to work as one. In our office, they work in an area called the Action District, right? It's all about action. It's all about dealing with customers.
Who's your ideal client? What will decide?
It's a good question. We've come a long way on that. We early on we felt we could help every customer out there. So we had a price that started as low as $50 a month, and truth was we were onboarding a lot of customers on that. What we ultimately realized though was, as we continued to build out the solution, it became very, very sophisticated, and it became hard for something that's so new and such a new way of thinking to do that for an SMB customer. So it's not that we don't work with SMBs now. We work more with kind of mid-market to enterprise, but I often say that it's more the sophistication of the marketer that we work with. Similarly, I mean, if anyone here uses Salesforce in their office, I'm willing to bet a lot of your companies are not enterprises, but they subscribe to Salesforce's enterprise package, right? So it's often a matter of those users who use a solution in a more sophisticated way, and that's still where our sweet spot is. We're often selling into anywhere from a VP of content manager, up to CMO level. And sometimes in very progressive companies, the CEOs actually get involved in some of the calls because they understand, as Jim outlined today, that inbound is a great way to drive your business and drive growth.
Do you still have a basic low cost product?
Depends what you define as low cost.
Good answer.
We started at $500 a month now, and we get a lot of pressure actually sometimes, internally, sometimes externally to start higher. But our belief is that those in this room are still very much living in a bubble, right? I mean, we are living in a bubble where we go, we embrace this idea and we talk about content, the importance of content. And my opinion is that we're just at the early stages of the importance of content in an organization. Not just the importance of content to the marketing team, but the organization. I think that's a big item that gets confused with the buzzword content marketing, right? It's a great buzzword, I love it. We eat it up, it helps us in many ways, but it also paints this picture that it's the marketing team only that's gonna rely on content. Reality is content's used at every stage of the funnel. I mean, Jim talked about how in some cases it's using that content later on in the funnel, for upsell or for retention. I use, my biggest struggle as COO of Uberflip right now is hiring. Trust me, I'm using a lot of content to hire right now. I mean, content, I think, needs to lead throughout the whole organization. So we're still, I think this is maybe more me and my co-founder wanting a lower price point, starting at 500, but in ways we should maybe be higher, we've been told.
You guys use clients use your platform as an internal documentation. This is, to me, I'm actually not a marketer, so I'm actually a tech. So a lot of times it's what you strike me that's even internally a problem to find information correct.
Yeah, it's so funny. Keith and I think we're talking about this at one point today. It's really funny to watch people look for a content asset. Any company, and I'm guilty of this myself in some cases, where do we go to find content assets when we need them when we're a salesperson or a success person? We go to Google for our own content assets. We jump to Google. We know kind of what the idea is, and we put our domain in, and we hope the right asset's going to come up. It's really funny how that happens. I think you're right. There is a need for, like I said, content to really pulse throughout the whole organization. One of the things that we're just about to do, we used to have a cost per user model, and we're actually making unlimited team members, because back to my point about being early in this, our thought is the more people who have access to this, the better managed that content process is going to be in the organization. So to answer your question, I agree. I mean, one of the cool hacks that we've seen some of our customers even do, and we just started to accommodate for this, we created a sales user, right? And what the sales user can do is they can't upload new content, they can't create new content. But what they can do is they can go into the application itself and they can search for a certain keyword. So let's say they're sending out a follow-up email, similar to the screenshots that you saw Jim show before, where you've got various different assets, around a topic. You can actually go and grab a few different assets, put them in what we call a hidden stream, so no one can find it, turn off SEO, do all these things, and then you can actually add some customized messaging. The call to action can be customized down to the level of contact the sales rep, as opposed to engage with us at the top of the funnel for a demo. And in that instance, we've started to see really micro levels of using content down to the opportunity level. Another thing we're launching in August is password protecting hubs. A hub is often what a lot of people talk about. So, and that also speaks to a lot of requests that we've had for better internal resources. It's funny, the technology that we built is really flexible. We use it for our own knowledge base as well. not only is it our content, you actually go to our help desk. All the articles, we've used our own system. Reality is our help desk team was waiting for someone to use some Apex coding in Salesforce to build that out, and it just wasn't happening. And one of them went home one night and just built the whole solution off our own platform. And they presented it the next morning. We thought they were brilliant. Somehow none of us had thought of it. Yeah.
When you're talking about being able to search for content assets by keyword,
Yeah.
can you also search by persona and funnel stage?
Not today. Those are things that we're looking at in terms of. So what we're working on adding now, thinking too detailed into product, is a different approach to tagging content. So
Yeah.
today we use more automatic filtering and things like that, whereas we've had a lot of requests for tagging information, and that tagging that we're going to launch probably later this year will better enable people to organize content in any way they want, right? Whether it's persona or what have you.
I think we actually, when you talk about organizationally, getting appreciation for content-driven nurturing, we're actually working with our HR department, because every prospect, if you want to call it, every applicant, every person being recruited is in a sense a prospect. So we actually have nurture streams, actually closing out with our CEO, with people who really want to get, who gets actually a video from the CEO, urging them to join forward. And people are just starting, because being marketing is so driven around lead gen and manage gen and upsell, cross-sell, but from the second the person makes the acquisition all the way down is actually, as I mentioned earlier, just a much richer opportunity to mine content marketing, because in a sense they're already believers, they're already customers, they already know the value, they already know the context, and that's where you really do an awful lot of good customers.
It's so true. I mean, really marketers have become the owners of content, and everyone's turning to the marketing department for a different asset. It doesn't matter what it is. And our internal motto for our team in the office, this doesn't make it necessarily to our sales side or our marketing materials, is that we want to be that next gen content management system. Not to be confused with a CMS. I don't want to be a CMS. CMS just happens to be content management system, but it's never really meant managing content. It's been about managing web pages. Today, a marketer is much more focused on not managing a bunch of pages, but managing an outcome. And that's, that to me is exciting, because that's measurable, that's accountable, and all that stuff.
It reminds me of when we first started speaking several weeks ago. You said, we talk about enterprise, but for us, it's not the size of the organization, it's their sophistication around their use of content. And so it's the outcome, but it's also the experience that person has as they travel the journey and get to the outcome. But it's the ability to think it through from the point of germinating the idea to having that outcome.
It's accountability is really what it is. The analogy I always give is, believe it or not, it was just 10 years ago that social media kind of became important. It feels like a lot longer. And in roughly 2006, Twitter was born. It's crazy. It seems like so much longer, but early stage, when people said, okay, we need to have a voice on social, all they did was they put a 21-year-old kid in a computer and they said, you got to tweet, post, or whatever the verb was, you had to do it. We have to have a voice. We need to be out there. And it was only when there were systems, early on it was Radiant 6, for those who remember Radiant 6. Today it's solutions like Hootsuite or others that are out there that provide accountability to social, that provide strategy, sophistication to how we go out with social. That's very much what we've been seeing over the last few years with content. There's been a lot of people out there who are just saying, we need to have a post this week. We need to have a video. We just need a voice. So you've seen a lot of people spending a lot of money on content, right? And there's great companies that have come to the rescue like that. There's small guys like Scripted, there's big guys like NewsCred who answered that. There's companies who have built content teams in-house. The next phase, though, is accountability. It's making sure that if we're going to spend all this money on content, that we're spending money on the right content, and that we're utilizing the content that works on an ongoing basis. And that's what we're trying to be. That's what we're focused on being, is that, what Hootsuite or Radiant 6 was to social, we need to be for content, is the way we remind our team quite often internally.
What do you do for a company that needs to pivot? It invests 3 years in a content strategy, and they need to pivot. Is your approach to content management help them?
I think the idea is figure out what's working and what isn't. Before you jump and pivot, we often just pivot to an idea because someone threw it up on a whiteboard or someone threw it into a suggestion bank. But usually when you're pivoting, you have enough data. Right? When we did our own pivot, not just content, product, we had a small subsegment of our customers who were marketers. We had customers who were all over the place. We had media publishers, we had finance departments using our original software. But what we did was we went and we spoke to a lot of the ones that were engaging in our solution. And I think that's the same with content. If you know that certain content is performing well, pivot towards that, right? Don't, and start from that. It doesn't mean that you need a full new strategy on day one. Start to work on the stuff that's working as opposed to make a full 180, if you will. That answer that.
Great, yeah.
Awesome. Well, hopefully everyone can socialize with me just listen to me. So why don't we, unless there's other agenda.
So thank you all for coming. How are we doing on time? Quarter to 8. People feeling like they need to get out of here? Where are we going? Want to network a little more? Want to what's that? Network and ask questions. Does anyone have questions for Jim?
Yeah, actually.
I want people to get their full dime's worth.
Please do. Jim, my question was, give 1 or 2 examples of that lead-in type of content for people that are totally unaware that was used successfully.
Sure. Okay. Classic. I'll just take the salon industry. We did things like the 4 upcoming trends before the Academy Awards in hairstyles. What you should see on the runway. Like in mid-January, a month before the Academy Awards. Upcoming summer dudes, things like that. So we're targeting the salon industry. Has nothing to do with Booker. Has nothing to do with trying to get them to buy our software. Has nothing to do with anything. It's just we're just posting on social, and they're like, oh, I want to do that. I'm a salon owner. I cut hair. That's what I do. This is my passion. And they go in and they're checking this stuff out, and then all of a sudden you're building with brand awareness. And then all of a sudden, when they see your name, they say, "Oh, well, that was highly contextual. I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't. You see stuff about what you'll see on the not the runway, the red carpet. Until I don't write that content, but what you'll see on the red carpet, that's like, oh, well, I see that like the week before the Academy Awards, but like 3 or 4 weeks before, I didn't expect to see that. So that's a classic, completely unaware stage, yet in context of finding the buyer where their passion is, and building brand awareness for virtually no cost in a very unassuming way. Has nothing to do with, they don't even know what a Booker is at that point. You're welcome. Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
You talked about that the reasons why you chose to work at Booker because you saw that they were doing okay, but they could still do a lot better. But did you have a clue, or did you take them also because of the culture and because of, and it's similar to what we just heard about Uberflip, that they, you know, they have they're very carefully targeted and focused to the people who can most appreciate and use what they're going to do. And I think as inbound marketers, we owe it to ourselves to really focus on that.
Yep.
Can you share with us any of the clues you had or the things that you needed to see and hear from that board and that CEO that gave you comfort zone?
Sure,
That you
actually.
could go in and do what you wanted to do?
A lot of it was not even so much from the board or even the CEO before I walked in. It was more, my CEO had actually shared all the key marketing metrics and dashboards with me before I walked in the door and asked me to just respond. So I've been in the content marketing automation space for a while, worked around the SMB space for about 20 years. I've been around a while, and I consider actually all of this just really. I get this question all the time. Well, how did you think this? It's actually all it is a means to the end. It's just marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it was 25 years ago or whether it was 25 days ago, you're still doing the same things. It's just you're actually able to engage much more relevantly, much more contextually, much more real time, much more in their state of mind because of technology. It's just marketing. So when I saw the metrics and I analyzed the metrics and I saw where they were, and I saw an openness to change, I actually ended up sending like a 7-page single-spaced. Okay, this is what I would do, and then just started rolling out. But yeah, part of it was the culture. Part of it was I'd already done it, so I kind of knew it was done. I knew the marketplace. I knew their platform and solution had a real need in the marketplace. It was a need for consumers. It was a need for SMBs. So that was one of the things I learned early in my career. A wise friend of mine had said, always look for a company that is a diamond in the rough, that is massively underusing their assets. And so that they don't even know the assets that they're sitting on, so that you can come in and then start to build them up. So it's a little bit of everything. So that's what I do over and over my career.
So yes. Question for you. You had talked about the red carpet example there.
Yes.
Where do you source the content that you yourself or your team don't necessarily have that?
Well, I go back to actually the combination of product marketers and vertical marketers. So we have these are relatively small teams. We have 2 people in product marketing. We have 1 woman who runs vertical market expertise. The product marketing people actually do all the research and all the knowledge for the markets that we're scouting, the business cases on and about to go into, and then the vertical market expert actually, her job is to become an expert and get very gritty with existing customers and thought leaders and so on within the existing markets. So the 2 of them would drive in and say, just what I pointed out. Yes, salon owners are extremely interested in finding out what the cutting edge do's are going to be on the red carpet at the Academy Awards, but they don't want to find out the week before. They would love to find out a month before, because then they can talk to their clients about it. And actually, if nothing else, just use it as a conversation starter, and ideally even use it to appear to be a thought leader to all the people in their local network. So if it comes down to, what I mentioned, one of the things I see all the time with companies that make mistakes in content is they just get a little team of content writers who go off and write content. And it's all good, and it's all nice, and it's all interesting, and it's all fuzzy. But it doesn't lead to leads and contracts because it doesn't have a real tight grip on what's going on with prospects and customers. Yes?
You mentioned the predictive lead scoring.
Yes.
Can you talk about that a little bit? What your plans are there?
Sure. I mentioned about technologies to come. One of the things that actually we're in the process of rolling out as we go into new markets is we're actually rolling into much deeper profiling list companies like Radius. We're in the SMB space. They have about 50 different profiling data points around SMBs. When you overlay that with your existing client base in Salesforce, a company like Infer that we'll be working with actually can map prospects and list buys onto their likelihood of success with your existing customers. So if I know a certain business maps extremely well, I can go right to that customer with a piece of content and say, you realize blah, 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 a company like yours, da, 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 da. And that's a very different conversation with a one-hit piece of content, using the technology to fast track instead of going through a buyer consideration cycle and seeing go, boom, Salesperson picks up the phone call. That's a whole different conversation. Then it becomes, well, why wouldn't that person take the call versus, hey, I'm Joe from Booker, I'd like to talk to you about software. Click.
It kind of opens up that phone calling again.
Yeah.
So now you can have both of them.
That's exactly right. You picked right up on it. So in terms of opening up the aperture, you can blow your metrics out even more. Because then you're not relying on all inbound. You're actually using your content to quick hit and accelerate your outbound. But it's not outbound just list calling. It's outbound with full context between the predictive lead scoring and the content that you
It's
sell.
a really good list.
Well, that's where I go back to Radius. We actually looked at the pile of different players, and Radius for our market is very, very good. So the list, and so intelligent lists with your Salesforce database, with your predictive lead scoring, with content, you're right there. Yeah. So it's when I said that all of this work is foundation for what's to come. I mean, it really is. It's not just it's not just cliche. Where the technology is going actually builds off of all of this.
And what's your position?
I can market it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I love it. I love it. I mean, I know people like I tell a story to somebody. A couple people in the marketing say, well, like a team meeting, you say, well, what happens? Once in a while, I'm a horse farm and I'll go to the beach. I said, she won't be another company 2 days later because this is what I love to do. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. Yes.
Hi, Jim. I'm wondering when you think about the persona. So when you, I would assume that when you're expanding right now into healthcare, right?
Yes.
Potentially you may have, based on logic or hypothesis, you have that these are the personas that you want to hit, and maybe these are the types of content that will reach them on a different level of funnel.
Yep.
Could you talk a little bit about the journey in terms of how you think about tweaking those content pieces to engage? Did the personas change at all for you in this talk?
Yes, actually, it's a great question. We do layers of market research. So we start with the secondary, then we get a very deep, very deep primary, then we go down to focus groups, then we go down to individuals and individual use cases. So we really plow out exactly how people watch before we actually start all the development work. And then everything you saw in terms of technology, we tune and we do autopsies daily. Every single email, every single everything. I mean, with Optimizely and Unbound, we test everything from button colors to, I was just actually at an Unbound's conference about 4 weeks ago and was listening to a speaker about how opposite ends of the color spectrum, when you combine them on your website, actually increase your engagement. So a blue with a yellow on opposite ends of the color spectrum will actually massively increase the response rate. So there are, yes, to answer your question like a word, yes. We tune and tweak them constantly. And that's actually one of the ways in which we've gotten some very good results. But I really love my team because everybody in the team is like, okay, we did this, let's get better, let's get better, let's get better. So nobody says, well, we had a great June, let's take off July. It's nice, but yeah, so it never ends. So you can always get better.
How long does that take you to get through that persona process?
We've done it in as quick as about 3 or 4 weeks. When we've done it really, really well, it takes 3 or 4 months. I would prescribe to the 3 or 4 months, not the 3 or 4 weeks. Because it's one of those things you can cut corners, but when you cut corners, you're going to have to do a lot more tuning and tweaking, which means you're going to waste more time and resources on the back end.
It's amazing how months down the road, you come back to, well, remember that persona that we're gonna, and it's that little insight.
That's right. That's all it was. Yeah, simple. I mean, I'll give an example of a persona as we're rolling into landscapers. You say, oh, well, for a service like ours, well, let's see. They'll probably really value appointments. They probably won't value point of sale because most people aren't there when the guy comes to cut the lawn. But they probably want retention marketing. And then you realize actually with appointment setting, they don't really want appointment setting because what they do is they go geographically within neighborhoods, and they might have, like with a neighborhood, they might have 10 customers. So they go to that neighborhood that day, and they mow all the lawns in that neighborhood. Now, if they have an appointment on this side of town, and the next hour an appointment on the other side of town, and the next appointment on the other side of town, your system just brought down their business. So there's an example of a persona that actually, when you get into the grit of how they do their work, what might seem at the surface level logical is completely out of sync with how they actually
Thank you all very much. Thank you, Jim, Randy. We'll see you in September. We're going to take August off, as most of New York does. And we'll be announcing a September meeting soon. Thank you very much. And thank you for all the people who joined us on the Google Hangout. Enjoy, man. This is very much. Yeah, glad you came too. It's a good program.
Yeah, it is. Yes, I'm here in September. I'll see you.
You will. Oh, thank you very much.
I may not be there. I may be going down to he was just out there. I may actually not be there. We'll make sure you're taken care of. We're having a good number. How's it? At 9 the other day. So the innovation centers, they canceled things. So it's going well. And you're going to be coming off happily, not coming off the Google guy. I have to coach you. So one of the things that I think.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Oh, wait. Good to see you. All right.
You guys know each other?
I got him late. I've been to a couple of his meetings. Actually, I met you at his meeting.
That's right, we did.
We first met. See you at work.
Put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah. So,
Out of that, I've been working with you and I'm working with you.
I only have good people.
When's your next one? Because I'd like to.
This Thursday.
In the morning?
And then the one after that is Tuesday, August 4th.
I'm not getting pinged about them. I definitely want to make it a regular part of my. It's the best networking I've done. Whatever you call it.
Think of the that. We don't like networking. It's just like networking.
Well,
We off the name. Like we all sit around the table. We all sit around the table and collaborate. Right. Dive into your LinkedIn and do
it's link work.
someone said prospect marketing.
I mean, if you're using LinkedIn the way you do, it's link work. Right? It's not. It's a direct link. It's not a wide net. Well, I'd like to attend more of them, and I'm not getting emails. Just let you know, or if they are, they're going in my spam. But I don't think I'm getting emails. But Ken and I spoke about it. I'm there.